When we boot up the CDJ-2000NXS2, nothing is loaded. Over here we have a couple of different buttons, and those buttons are the input selectors. The first button is Rekordbox, so you can connect the CDJ-2000NXS2 with a Rekordbox via the Pro DJ link connection. When we press that, we can connect with my laptop. This is the link feature, and the link feature means that we can play tracks off of the other player. That only works if the Pro DJ link connection is connected. Then over here we have USB, so that is the USB stick over here. Then the SD card, and that is the SD card slot over here. And then the disc, and that is the CD or a DVD. In this case I'm gonna select a Rekordbox because I'm gonna play tracks from my Rekordbox. Then you'll see that a menu appears here. That is the browse menu. You can also access the browse menu by pressing the browse button, and as you already saw, when I press it again, this menu goes away. When I press browse, the menu appears, and there are a couple of different menu items over here. It says playlist, matching, rating, artist, key, track, etc, etc, etc. On your player there can be different items over here. You can set those items in Rekordbox. In my case I've selected a couple of them, not all of them, and those are displayed right now here. To scroll through the list you'll use the scroll button, and to enter a item, in this case I'm gonna enter the playlists, then I press the scroll wheel. Then I am presented with all the folders and playlists that I've made, and over here are the playlists. Those are those lists icons, and over here are the folders. So when I want to go into the 2010 folder, then I click the rotor again, and then I see I have the smart list and all my playlists that I made. And in this case I'm gonna go to playlist YouTube and enter that playlist by pressing the rotor again. And now over here you'll see those are all the items in my playlist YouTube, and I'm gonna load in a track, Foundation for example. So I scroll to this item and I press the rotor again, and now the track is loaded into the player. Searching for songs on the CDJ-2000NXS2 is really easy due to the touchscreen. The browse button has another feature, and that is the search feature. When I hold this button for 2 seconds, you'll see that there appears a new screen. Over here is a flashing cursor. Here are displayed the items that are found, and over here is the keyboard. When I want to search, I just type in on the screen, I want to search for booty with a Y. You'll see it turns up booty with EA, but that is because in Rekordbox I defined an extra word because I know I'm gonna find it under booty with a Y. Now you'll see all the search results are over here. I can go to another result with the scroll button, and when I want to load in a song I can directly do that and press the scroll button. Now it will load in a song. I go back to the search screen, browse 2 seconds, because I want to explain more about the search feature. Here is the keyboard. You can search for spaces also in a track name. That is over here with a space. Over here you'll see a button on the screen that says 1, 2, 3. That means that you can also put in numbers. When I press this button you'll see that the keyboard changes on the screen just like on your mobile phone. And over here is 1 till 0, and there are some special characters over here, the plus sign, the @ sign. When I want to go out of this screen without selecting a track, that is possible. Just click on the back button or on the browse button again. Browse will throw you back again in the screen you were before, but if you want to go out of the search feature and tap the back button, then it will go back to the menu that you were before. So the menu of the browse feature. Next to the search feature we have the tag list. You can tag some songs, for example, when you're browsing, and recall those songs later. Those are just a little hint, a memory of what you gonna play in the future. For example, I want to add Booty Loose to my tag list. I can go over here and that says tag track. When I tag the track, you'll see it's flashing and there is a red mark in the front of the name of the track. Now when I press the button tag list, then you'll see that there are all tracks that I have tagged, and on the bottom there is Booty Loose. If I want to remove a track from the track list, by the way, I can directly load this song if I want to, but if I want to remove a track from the tag list, I can go over to the tag list and hold that same button that we used before, the tag track button, but for 2 seconds, and that will remove it from the list. But that works also in the browse feature. So when I'm over here in the browse feature, knocking boots, I can add it to my tag list. Then you'll see it's added to my tag list. But when I want to remove it, I press remove for 2 seconds. Now you see the red marking disappeared, and when I go to tag list, it isn't here. There is the info button that is over here. You can have some more information about the track you're currently playing. For example, the artwork, but also the source, and in this case it's the record box, so on my notebook. But I can also see the information of the other player. So what track is loaded into the other player, and when I type on player 2, that's the other player, I can see, well, that is track low. There is not much information about it because I didn't fill it in record box, but I can see it's almost 5 minutes and 123 BPM, and also the source is record box and it has no artwork. When I go to over here to menu, then you have a menu, and that menu is sensitive to where you are. So in this case, when I'm playing a track, for example, then it is the previous tracks that I've loaded in, and I can really easily load them again if I want to. For example, this is the root of my CDJ. So when I go all the way back, I can go in the MacBook and the playlist, and I go in this playlist. The menu button doesn't do anything, but when I go back all the way to the root, so in this case my MacBook, so my connection with Recordbox, then I press the menu button, and then you can see I can load settings, I can save settings, and I can even change the waveform color to blue, for example, if I want to. The next buttons I want to discuss are the track filter and the shortcut buttons. For example, when I'm in a playlist like this and I want to filter out certain tracks, then I'll press the track filter option. You'll see that there changed something in this list, and you can see over here that the track filter is applied by that funnel icon and that 52 tracks are displayed. When I press the track filter for 2 seconds, you can set the settings of that track filter. For example, the BPM filter is applied and it has to be 130 BPM with a variation of 6%. I can also say, well, the key, what tracks are displayed now. When I go back, You see, by the way, the number of tracks changed here in the corner. When I press this button again, then you'll see that only 13 tracks are displayed. I can also apply the rating, I can also apply color. I can also apply the My tag. The My tag feature is a feature that you can assign certain tags to a track, so you can really easily find that. In the My tag feature over here, you can see all the My tags that I've set in Rekordbox. And you can apply that to that track filter. For example, I made a tag for the genre. Is it a not EDM track? I clicked it and I said, well, it does not have to be a EDM track. Not EDM. Or is it an EDM track? You can set over here what a criteria has to apply here. Does it and not an EDM song and a recent EDM, or not EDM or a recent EDM house song. You can do that with components. I have defined certain components. I can check it if I like to, and all those criteria I can set. It has to follow the criteria, and it has a synth and a brass copper, or it has to be very rhythmic. I go back and there is one button left, and that button is shortcut. And with shortcut there are a couple of shortcuts you can set. That is a shortcut menu to different features of the CDJ. For example, the phase meter, you can set it to the block type or the stripe type. Does it have to be set to auto load Hotcues, the Quantize beat value? You can tap the screen if you want to change that. The My settings, does it have to load? Do you want to load or do you want to save? The waveform color, you can see it changes automatically here on the bottom of the screen. It can also go to the track list, for example. When I press the shortcut again and I press playlist, it goes to playlist, search and matching. On the left we have a button here and it says time mode. If I press that, you'll see it says now here remain, but if you press it, it is the time elapsed of a track. There is a double function under that button. If you press it for 2 seconds, then you see it auto cues here. Auto cue is effectively the function. If you are loading a track, does it start to play automatically? On the display you can see here on top your title. Also is here displayed your loop mode. For example, if I'm playing a song and I go into a loop, then you see that there are the different options. Those are automatically displayed when you go into a loop. Now they are automatically displayed, but you can set that to off if you want. Then you can skip a beat forward and you can skip a beat backwards. So when you're playing, you can skip back a beat and you can skip forward a beat. That is just one beat. There is also the beat jump function, and with beat jump you can jump more than just one beat. You can jump back 2, you can forward 2, you can jump back 4, forward 4, 8, forward, backwards, and 16 forwards and backwards. The CDJ represents you with 2 waveforms. The first one is over here. That is the big waveform, the zoomed in waveform, and on the bottom of the screen there is the zoomed out waveform, the total view of a track. When I play the track, you'll see that a needle is walking through the song. This is the part that is still coming up, and here you see the detailed view. If you want to zoom in on this view, you can do that with the scroll button. Zoom out left and zoom in right. You can jump to certain sections in a song by clicking it with your finger on the screen itself in the lower waveform. For example, I want to go over here. I can see a preview of what is coming up in the track. Remember, the track is right here, the playhead is over here, and when I want to go to that section in the track keeps playing. It's just a preview. When I go to that section, I can press the play button and that will pause the track. You'll still hear it. And it jumps right to the part of the track that I'm holding with my finger. If I now let go of my finger, the track will stop. Before I can continue play, I have to press the play button again. When I want to jump back in the track, over here for example, press the pause button, and if I press it again, it continues playing. Let's do it again. I come over here, I want to jump to this part in the song. When I press it once, it will jump to that part in the song. When I release my finger, it will stop, but when I click the play button again, it will continue playing, even if I release my finger. When you look at the screen, you see that there are a couple of items over here. Those E, F, B, A markings are the Hotcues. And if the Hotcues are in the song, they are displayed on top of the track over here. When they are loaded into the memory, then they are on the bottom of the track. In this case, they are on top and on the bottom, so the Hotcues are loaded in. If you don't want to auto-load your Hotcues, you can go to Shortcut and switch the Hotcue auto-load to off. Now let's go back or press the shortcut again. And now it won't load the next time I will load in a new song. Then these markings on the bottom will disappear. They are only then on the top of the track. You can load in again a Hotcue if you want to by using the call button and pressing the name of the Hotcue. It will directly immediately jump in the song to that Hotcue. Over here you see the counts of a song. This red thing is the first beat of a bar. You can change this, and I will go over that later, if you want to blocks. Some find it easier. I don't find it easier because when you zoom in or out, or you have two tracks playing, for example on the other player, then you can see if the other one is the master, then you can see how the tempo is changing. I'm changing the tempo on the other player. I'm gonna show you how to change that. Then you see you don't have, when I change, any influence over how it looks. By the way, I did it with a shortcut, but you can also tap on it to change it. On the bottom of the screen you have over here your player number. This is player 1. On the other player it says player 2. Then over here the quantize value, you can set that to a lower value if you want, half a beat, a quarter beat. I will go over that in a minute. Over here you have auto Hotcue, and that means it auto loads the Hotcue. Over here we have the remaining time. You can set that if you like, I'll go over that in a minute, to what is already elapsed. Here the BPM, the sync that is enabled, the BPM of the track, plus or minus 10, that is the sensitivity of the slider, and what is the current loop value, and that is 4 beats. Cueing can mean two things. The preview you can listen to with your headphones on your mixer, but I'll focus on the cue button above the play and the pause button. How can you use the cue? Well, you can use the cue to ready your track to start in a song. So you cue a song. To do that I can go, for example, over here. I want to start in here. Well, it sounds about right. Then I can set a cue point by using the cue button in the pause mode. So the pause mode is when I'm having the pressure on the jog wheel or the track is paused. When I now press the cue button, then it will set a cue point. You'll see over here in the display, it has a little triangle at the bottom of the track. That is my cue point. When I now press the cue button, then you will see that marking will change to over here. Now I can release the platter because now the cue point is set. The Quantize function has influence on this cue function. When I want to set my cue point here, for example, it will round up to the next beat. So now it will round up to the first beat of a bar, and when I'm over here it will round up to the fourth beat of a bar. I said pause mode, so when I play a track and I pause a track and I'm pressing the cue button, then you can set a cue also over here. When I set the quantize off, then you will see I can set a cue point wherever I like in the track. This you can use, for example, to start at a sound sample that isn't exactly on the beat of the song. You can also use the Quantize function to quickly preview a song without worrying that you have to rewind the track. So when I set a cue point over here with the Quantize function on, then when I press the cue button, then it starts playing the song. When I release the cue button, then you will see it will automatically rewind the song at the point that I set the cue point. You see? So I release the button and it stops playing and rewinds the track to the point that I set a cue point. What's the difference with the play and the pause button? Well, when I press the play button, it starts playing. And when I press the play button again, it stops right at the point that the track is right now. You can also use the cue function to get in the rhythm of a song. For example, when you're beat matching your track, then I want to start over here, for example, and I have a track already playing. I can in my headphones hear if I'm in the beat of a track. When they are in the same BPM, I'm starting in a track right now on my other player, and I want to get in the rhythm of that track. So I can tap that on my player, but I can also tap that on the cue button. Do that in your headphones, by the way, and not when the people are rocking on the dance floor. And when I'm happy, I can hold the cue button. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that position in the track. I can release it, but that means that it will rewind. I don't want that. Now I want to that the track keeps playing. I can do that by pressing the pause button. Well, the play button in this case. Now I can release the cue button and the track keeps continuing playing. A lot of DJs don't know what the rings around the cue and the pause button mean. You can see if a track is playing or not. In this case, the track is playing. You see it's running over here, it's over here. And when I open the slider, you'll see it has a visual clue over here. But when I press the pause button, you will see it starts to flicker. This means that the track is now paused. So play and it stays lit, pause and starts to flicker. But also the cue button starts to flicker. That means that there isn't a cue point present at that point that you're in right now. By accident, I touched the cue point, and as we discussed earlier, in the pause mode, when you click the cue, then it sets a cue point. So now there's a cue point over here in the song. So when you are on the cue point, this ring is lit up and it doesn't flash. So again, I'm pressing the play button, both rings are not flashing. When I press the play button, the cue button flashes because there is no cue point at that point. So when I want to set a cue point here and I click the cue, then it stays lit. Above the play, pause and cue button, there are 4 buttons. The first pair of buttons is the track search, and with the track search you go, just like on a normal CD player, go to the next track or the previous track. That only works if you are in a playlist. So when you only play one song, that doesn't work. Or you search the song, for example, that doesn't work. So I'm now in a playlist, and when I press next, it will go to the next song in the playlist. And when I play this song and I press the previous button, so the track previous, it will jump back to the beginning of the song. And I have to tap it 2 times to go to the previous song. So 1 to the beginning, 2, and it goes to the previous song. And when I want to go back to the beginning of this song, I press it just once. Underneath track search there is search, and that doesn't do the same thing as track search. With search you can go fast forward in a track or rewind a track. So now I'm in the pause mode, and when I press search next, it will skip quickly through the track, and when I go backwards, it will skip backwards in a track. Same thing when it's playing forward or previous in a track. The jog wheel is this big thing in the middle of your CDJ-2000NXS2 player. This ring represents the vinyl record that you would have had on a vinyl record player. When I play the song, I can influence the speed of the song by nudging the track a little bit to forward or back. That you can do with the outer ring. Let me show you. This you can use, for example, to beat match your track with the other player. But when you apply pressure on the jog wheel, then you will notice that the behavior changes. And the record will stop. Now apply the pressure, and just like you would have done with a vinyl record, if you move it backwards, the track will go backwards, and if you move it forwards, the track will go forward. This way you can scratch with your CDJ. You can set how much pressure do you have to apply to move the jog wheel. That you can set with jog adjust. So when it's set to light, the movement you have to apply is very light. Let me show you. But when I set it to heavy, that is the most right setting, then the jog wheel is very heavy. Next to the jog wheel we have the vinyl speed adjust. This setting will determine how much time it takes for the record to slow down. But when I turn this knob all the way to the right, it takes a while for it to slow down, like it would on a vinyl record player. That is really slow. The acceptable setting is over here, for example. This is better. Not only slowing down you can set, but also speeding up, and that is the button below. So when I play the button now, it's set to quickly. It goes directly from 0 to 100. When I press play now, then it takes a while for it to speed up. When I turn both buttons, both knobs all the way to the right, it takes a while to slow down and it takes a while to speed up. Over here we have the jog mode, and that determines the behavior of your jog wheel and the behavior of the pause mode. When I set it to CDJ, now it's paused. I set it to CDJ, you will hear some sound, and it's a really small snippet of the song. This you can use to set your record straight exactly at the first beat of a bar, for example, so I can cue it. Do this, by the way, with the Quantize off. Your jog wheel will not react to the pressure that is applied to the ring. Let me show you. It will do nothing. But when I turn, it will slow down a bit and it will speed up a bit. This is the same behavior as we had before with the outer ring. It doesn't react to the applied pressure anymore. But it does with the vinyl mode. I want to set the vinyl mode to CDJ. In the middle of the jog wheel you will see that there is a lit ring, and that lit ring will correspond with the position of your jog wheel. So when I turn the jog wheel, you will see when I turn it halfway, the light will go also halfway. This represents your position of your vinyl record. In the middle over here you see a red marking, and that red marking represents your cue. So when I cue a song, for example over here, then you'll see that the red marking and the outer ring are aligned. When I turn this, then you will maybe think that is a couple of seconds, 1 second, or maybe the beats. There isn't a correlation at all. This only represents the frames in the music and nothing else. So there's no logical reference for a DJ. So now they are aligned, so you can see, well, I have cued my track. You can see that, by the way, also by the lit up cue light. When you apply pressure, then you will see that the inner ring will light up, and that means pause. And that is the same when you press or don't press the play pause button. So now I'm still paused. When I release the ring, then you will see it will turn off. You can use the jog wheel also to fast forward or to rewind your track. For example, when I'm playing a track and want to go quickly to the end of this section, for example, then I can turn the wheel to over here, for example. You saw that took me a while. If I want to speed up that process, you can use the search button. Normally you can go back this way, but when you use it in combination with the scroll wheel, it will go even faster. So I'm going back, use the scroll wheel, and you see it will go really fast at the beginning of the track. If you want to adjust the speed of your track, you can do that with your jog wheel. When I do that, that is just a change that will go back to the original state. So when I'm playing at 113 BPM, if I use the jog wheel, it will stay on 113 BPM, only I nudge the track a little bit forward or back. I'll demonstrate. It keeps playing on 113 BPM. But if I want to change the speed for the rest of the record, I can use the tempo slider. And the tempo slider is over here. When I play the track and I use the tempo slider, you will notice that the music will slow down if I move it upwards. And you'll see that the values in the display are changing. I put it up. You'll see it will slow down. When I move the tempo, 0 is in the middle. When I move it up, so the tempo up but the slider down, then you'll see the BPM in the display will change, and you will hear that the track is playing much faster. If you are playing a track and you want to jump back immediately to the speed you were, the original speed of the track, you can use tempo reset. Let me show you. The track is now at 180 BPM. When I use tempo reset, then it will jump back to the original speed of the record. But notice that the slider is still down. This is with the tempo reset on, but with the tempo reset off, it will immediately jump back to the value of the slider. So you can temporarily move the restriction of the speed. There is one nifty feature here, and that is called master tempo. When you pitch down the notes of the music itself will go lower in pitch, and when you speed up it will go higher in pitch. To prevent this, because you will change the key of the song, they have invented master tempo. So if master tempo is on, then the key of your song will stay the same, but the tempo only changes of a song. Let me show you what happens with the master tempo on and with the master tempo off. Tempo reset is on. The pitch of the sound is staying the same. With the master tempo off, it will go down. You will notice that, and when I put it up, it will go up in pitch. You can change the sensitivity of the tempo slider, and that is what this button does. This button corresponds with the value over here in the screen. This value says now wide, and there are a couple of different values on this button, and it says plus or minus 6, plus or minus 10, plus or minus 16, and wide. Wide is the setting we're in right now, and wide is, well, not infinite, but when you slow down it will come to a full stop, and when you speed up it will go twice as fast. Let me show. Now it's all the way stopped. But that is maybe not what you want. It's maybe too sensitive. Then you can change it to another sensitivity level, and that sensitivity level you can set with tempo. And let's change it from wide. Press it one time and it will go to sensitivity plus or minus 6. And I'll crank up the volume a bit so you'll hear what is happening. I'll set it to plus or minus 6. I'll crank it up to plus or minus 10. Or I crank it up to plus or minus 16. And wide. And you will see in the display over here the BPM changes. So from plus or minus 16 we're now in wide. It changes to plus or minus 6. Press it again, plus or minus 10. Press it again, plus or minus 16. Press it again, we are in wide. Next we go to a really controversial function, and that is the sync beat sync function. The beat sync is over here. Let's say I want to copy over the BPM, so 124.8, copy over that to my second player, because I want to beat match, then I can do that with the beat sync function. Now, right now, my master player is this player, and my slave player is this player. How can you know that this is the master, this is the slave? Well, the master is off here and the master is on here. On the master player there will be a light that lights up master. If I want to copy over the tempo of my track of my first player to my second, I have to make sure that this is the master player. I set this player as master, then the light will go off on this player. Now you see that something funny has happened. I don't know if you can see it, but on the display here it says 124.8. This is because over here the sync light is on and the sync light is off on player 1. Sync light on means use the BPM of the master player. Now this player is master, this player is slave. Let's play the other player, and now I want to change the tempo and copy over the tempo back to player 1. So then I have to make sure that this one is the master. I'm playing the other track. This one is master, that one is slave. Notice that by pushing the fader down of the master player, the master skips to the other player. This is something that the CDJs do automatically when you connect it with the Pro DJ link connection. You'll see that I have put down the sliders and now master is lit up here, but is going off here. Let's first change the tempo of this track. This one is now 132. I want to make this 132. This one is master. Now I copy over by pressing sync. And now you'll see that the tempo has changed from 124 to 132. But what happens to the tempo if I copy over the tempo from player 2 to player 1? Because then the value of your slider isn't correct. Let's show you. This player is the master, this player is the slave. So let's play both of them. Now it says 128 BPM over there. I'm gonna copy those 128 to this player, so I press sync. Now 128 BPM is copied, but the value of the slider isn't correct. When I move it up or down, you'll see an error message on the display, and that error message says tempo change not possible with sync on. So if we want to change the tempo, we have to set it to off. So I disable sync by pressing sync. Now I can change the tempo, but this tempo isn't correct. The current value of the slider is displayed over here and the tempo of the track is displayed over here. It says move tempo slider to current BPM, so we have to move the tempo slider to 127 BPM, and when we reach that point you can see I can now change the value. With the loop function you can repeat certain parts of a song. That can be really useful if you're in your outro, for example, and you need a little bit more time to mix out, or if you want to do some special trickery. The loop section is over here. When I play a song, I will zoom out a bit with the scroll button. I like this view. When I press play, I can set the in point and I can set an out point. On the first beat, I press the in point. And on the fourth beat, so the first beat of the next bar, I will set the out point. Now I have a perfect 4-beat loop. That is perfect because I activated the Quantize function. When I exit the loop, the exit button is over here. And I do that without the quantize function off, I can set a loop between those beats. For example, I'm trying not to do it in the beat. Set the quantize off. You see, it's not a perfect loop. You can hear it. There is an automatic loop function for 4 beats, and that is over here. So when I'm playing a song and I press that button, you will see that it automatically makes a 4-beat loop. So I don't have to use the in point and the out point. And you see it automatically makes a 4-beat loop. I'll exit the loop. But you can also make an 8-beat loop automatically. So when I'm playing the song, I have to press the same button for 2 seconds. And you see it makes a 8-beat loop. But I can also cut this loop in half. So when I'm playing the song, I can press the same button and you see it now has an 8-beat loop, and I can cut this in 4. Now it makes a 4-beat loop. When I press this button again, it will half again to 2 beats. 1, half, a 4th, and a 16th, an 8th. I can press also the display to lengthen or to shorten the loop. There is one caveat to working with the quantize and loops. It will reboot the loop from the start. For example, I'm playing a song, I'll put the quantize on and I change the length of the loop, then you'll see it jumps back. Now I have selected a 4-beat loop. When I want to extend that loop, I can press over here 8, for example. With the quantize on, it will continue playing. But with the quantize off, and I will shorten the loop or lengthen it, you will see it jumps back to the beginning of the loop. You see, I extend the loop, 8 beats, 4 beats, 2 beats, it starts right over at the beginning of the loop. When I'm in a loop and I'm not satisfied with my out point of the loop, I can change that out point if I like to. I'm making a loop. I made a loop of 4 beats. I can press the out point again and I can adjust that part. You see the music keeps continue playing, but the waveform stops. Now I can adjust this loop with the jog wheel. And I can also shorten it. And a lot of DJs on festivals use this trick. I can also change the in point of a loop, but the effect is not as dramatic as shifting the out point, because there are some limitations. I'll show you. I have an active loop right now, and I press the in point to change the in point. I can change it, but I can change it only so much. Hotcues and cue points on the CDJ-2000NXS2, but what is the difference? First of all, the hotcues are over here and the cue points are over here. The difference between a hotcue and a cue point is that you can directly, immediately access a certain point in a song. The hotcues are meant to do that in a song when a song is playing. For example, I go to A, to C, B, C, A, B, C, back. I can skip from A to C if I want, and back to A if I want, but you can't do that with the memory cues. With the cue points you can only skip to the next one and to the previous one. If you want to go from memory cue 1 to 2 and then to 3, you need to go to 2 to get to 3, and you can't go directly from 1 to 3 or from 3 to 1, for example. And when I play a song and when I press a Hotcue button, the track continues playing, and it doesn't happen with a cue point. So, and when I press a cue point button, you'll notice it will stop the track. Cue points are meant to give you a reminder for certain sections in a song. For example, where to start your track, for example. Hotcues are more so you can jump in a song, so you can skip to certain parts in a song, and if you want to skip back in a song. There are 10 cue points available. You can set them in Rekordbox if you want, but you can do that on the machine itself. And there are 8 hotcues. Well, yeah, technically 8, but they are divided in 2 banks. So you have 2 times 4 hotcues. I'll start with the cue points. The cue points are over here. The cue points are displayed in the screen by the red triangles. Over here in the beginning is a red triangle, and at the end here is a red triangle. And I recorded some hotcues. Those are over here. Those are the E, the B, the A and the C markings. But those are the hotcues, not the cue points. When I want to skip to the next cue point, I press the right button, and you see it jumps over here, it jumps over here, it jumps over here, it jumps over here, and it jumps over here. You can set, as I did with the B, the A and the C, you can set a cue point and a hotcue at the same spot, and that's why it's maybe in this example a little bit confusing. But as you can see over here, I set a memory cue but not a hotcue, and that is marked with a red triangle. And indeed you can skip left with the left button and right with the right button. If you set a certain section in a song a memory cue, then maybe you want to delete it, and that you can do with the delete button. When you're over here and you press delete, you will see that the markings over here will disappear. And if I want to set a new cue point, for example over here, it's maybe not the most logical point, but when I want to record a new memory cue, then I can press memory, and you'll see a red marking on top here will appear. It's not useful to me, so I press delete. I want to set it over here, and I press memory. Now let's jump over to the hotcue section. Yeah, pun intended. The hotcue section has technically 8 hotcues. There are 4 hotcues over here, A, B, C and D. And if you want to skip, because there are more banks, there are 2 banks in the CDJ for hotcues, then you press this button and you see that the markings will change, the color will change, and this means that there isn't a hotcue set. And this means it can be different colors. You can assign different colors to those hotcues. You can see that only this one is applied. When you want to record a new one, you, for example, I want after this break over here, I want to set a hotcue, and I want to set hotcue F because I'm in bank number 2. I want to set hotcue F, and I press F. And you see over here that there is the marking F. And when I play the song, and this is where it gets funky, press the F again and it will jump back to that point in the song. When I want to jump back to E, then I press the first one and you see it jumps back to a point in the beginning of the song. When you want to access the other bank, then you press the first bank and you see that the LEDs are changing. You can see hotcue D is not set, but C, B and A are set. And when I play the song, I can skip to those parts in the song. This is the drop, this is the break, and this is the outro. You may have noticed that it took a while for the hotcues to react. That can be annoying. But you can switch that off, and that does the Quantize function do. When I press the quantize off, then you'll see that I can skip directly to A and it will react directly to my key presses. Quantize has the advantage that you always stay in the beat of a song. But if you do that, there is something you have to bear in mind. For example, when I activate the quantize, then it will jump to the nearest beat. So when I'm playing a song and I'm pressing A before that the next beat is here, then you'll see it waits a whole beat for it to skip. But what if you do that right after the beat? So when you press the button right here, so in the middle of two beats, then it will jump to the next beat in the song. I will enlarge the display. You can do that, by the way, with the scroll button. This is the first beat of a bar, second, third and fourth. And when I press the button, when the music is over here, you will see it will skip to the next beat. Let's do that. That was before the beat, now after the beat. And if you heard that correctly, there are now only 3 bars in a beat. That means that if your crowd is rocking, that they are a bit confused, because normally there are 4 bars in the beat and now all of a sudden there are only 3. Over here is the call button. You don't use this button if you set the settings of the CDJ. You can do that in Rekordbox, by the way, to automatically load those Hotcues. You don't have to do that. If you switch that off, then you have to load your Hotcues manually. When you load in a song, you have to press the call button and press the Hotcue to load in the memory the Hotcue. How can you use that call button? You can use that, for example, if you play 2 songs after another. You can have a Hotcue in one song and a Hotcue in the other song. If you auto-load your Hotcues, that means if your new song is loaded in the player, then automatically all your Hotcues are loaded and your old ones are overwritten. When I set a couple of Hotcues, in this case I want to set a couple of Hotcues in bank number 2, then I want maybe delete them because I don't want to use them anymore. I can delete them by pressing the call button and pressing the Hotcues again. The Quantize function on the CDJ-2000NXS2. The Quantize function is over here. When this button lights up, when the LED is red, then the Quantize is activated. When I press it, then the Quantize isn't activated. You can see in the screen over here there will disappear a marking. It's on now, it's off now. I can set the Quantize value. It's now set to 1 beat, but I can change that if I like to. I can go to shortcut and I can change that Quantize value to a half a beat, quarter beat, 1/8 of a beat. Personally, I like it to have on 1 whole beat. The Quantize function applies to a couple of different sections of the CDJ. It applies, for example, to Hotcues. When I play a song, and I press Hotcue A, it will jump to that part of the song. When Quantize is on, you will notice that it will do that in the beat. That does Quantize do. It rounds up to the nearest beat. When I press it halfway a beat, you'll see it waits a while until the next beat is happening. When I put the Quantize function off, you will notice that it will jump immediately. Quantize on, Quantize off. With Quantize, it searches for the next beat that is coming up. When I want to set a cue point in a song and I'm over here, with the Quantize off, you will notice that it will set a cue point. You can see if it set a cue point by looking at the triangle on the bottom of this waveform. Now it's halfway the beat. When I'm on a beat, for example over here, it isn't exactly on the beat itself, and I put the Quantize function on, you'll see it will jump to the next beat, and the nearest beat is over here. You'll see it go back, it will go back. So with the Quantize off, you can set a cue point halfway a beat, here or here or here or here. With the Quantize on, it will set a cue point to the exactly to the nearest beat. This only works if your beat grid is correct, and you can check that in Rekordbox, and if it isn't correct, you can change it in Rekordbox. But not only cues, it works only for loops. When I'm making a loop, I'll play the song and I set an in point and an out point. You'll see it loops perfectly, and that is because of the Quantize function. If I go and exit the loop and I try to make a in point and an out point of loop with the Quantize off, you'll see it won't make a perfect loop because I'm a little bit before or after the beat. I'll try to make it on the beat. Well, I did a good job, but it's not perfect. There is one caveat to working with the Quantize and loops. It will reboot the loop from the start. For example, I'm playing a song, I'll put the Quantize on and I change the length of the loop, then you'll see it jumps back. Now I have selected a 4-beat loop. When I want to extend that loop, I can press over here 8, for example. With the Quantize on, it will continue playing. But with the Quantize off, and I will shorten the loop or lengthen it, you will see it jumps back to the beginning of the loop. You see, I extend the loop, 8 beats, 4 beats, 2 beats, it starts right over at the beginning of the loop. If you want to copy over an entire track, so the track that is playing on one player and want to copy over it to another player, you can do that. And that you can do with this function, also the sync function, but you have to hold it for 2 seconds. So this one is playing over on player 1 and I want to copy it over to player 2. I have to press the sync button for 2 seconds. Then it will copy over the track, but exactly at the same point as this track was. So I press the sync for 2 seconds. And now this player uses all the position, the track from the other player. There's one caveat here. It doesn't load, even if you have set it in Rekordbox or in the settings of your CDJ, it doesn't load your Hotcues. This player has 3 Hotcues loaded of this track. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but there aren't any Hotcues loaded on this track. If you press a Hotcue now, then it will set a new Hotcue instead of jumping to the Hotcue of this player. You can recall, if you want to, the Hotcues of the song that you're playing right now by using the call button. So I press the call button.
And now press the Hotcue. Now the Hotcue is triggered and the track jumps to that specific part of the song. So before you use any Hotcues, you first have to press the call button before you press the Hotcue button. You only have to press the call button the first time you want to access the Hotcue.
The things you do with the slip function on are non-destructive edits to your track. They won't affect the rest of your track. The edits that you do only apply for a short amount of time. The music keeps playing in the background, but you don't hear it. So when you cancel your action, the thing that you're doing right now, then the music picks up at the point that you would have been if you haven't done that action. When I press the slip button, then you'll see that the light of slip lights up and also that the lights of the Hotcues are changing. Now the slip mode is active, and that means that I can do non-destructive things to my track. For example, I'm playing a song and I'm gonna jump to another point in the song with the Hotcue. You see, my music is right over here and I want to jump to A. And as long as I'm holding the A button, then the music is skipping to the A point. But when I release the button, then it will jump back to the point that the music was actually playing. So in the background is playing, only you don't hear it. But there is a limit to the memory. There is a limit to how long you can do that, and then it will automatically cancel that Hotcue slip thing. This works also with the Quantize on and off. Now I'm putting it off so I can do really quickly jumps in the music. But the music is still playing in the background, only you don't hear it. You can also give a spin to the wheel, to the jog wheel. And with the slip function on, you'll see that it will speed up, but it jumps automatically back to the point in the song where I was. That doesn't work for everything on the CDJ, but things like Hotcues and the play and the jog wheel, it works. When I enable the slip function, you will see that there are some blocks over here. Those are loop blocks. When I disable the function, you'll see they are gone. When I enable the slip function, you'll see that the blocks are here. I can make loops, small loops that don't affect the rest of my track. I'll play the track and I have to hold my finger on the screen so the loop will activate. You might ask if your regular loops still work. Yes, indeed, they still work. So I make a loop, a 4-beat loop, and it does a 4-beat loop, or half a loop, or 1-beat loop. There is something funny here, because if I press the pause button, that will also be affected by the slip function. I exit the loop, and I press the pause button, and you will see that the music still keeps running in the background, but you don't hear it. You'll see it's still running over here, and I can continue, and the music picks up where it would have been if I haven't pressed the pause button. Now let's show you the direction button. The direction button changes the direction. I'll put the slip function off for now. I press B because I want to go back in the song. Then when I press the reverse, then you will see it will reverse the track. And you can rewind the whole track if you like to. Don't see the point in it, but it rewinds the track. When you put it to the center, then it is the normal play mode. Go back. But there is a combination with a slip function, and that is when you put the slider to the upper section. Then it will slip reverse. So that means that the music in the background keeps playing, you don't hear it. So when you release that reverse, then it will automatically continue where it was. So let's do that. This is a slip reverse. I release it, and you'll see in the break it continues playing. Slip reverse, you hear it reversing, but when I release it, it will continue as where the music was supposed to be. Also here is a limit to the amount of memory you can use. You can do this only for a couple of seconds. Then you'll see, even if I press the button, it starts flashing and it says out of memory. So you can't do that, only for a couple of seconds. You may ask, what is the difference between the slip reverse and reverse with slip on? There is no difference. Let me show you. Slip function, and I say reverse. But also here the amount of memory limitation that applies also here. So when I leave it in reverse, it will automatically continue. Continuous play. How to make your CDJ-2000NXS2 play one track after another. The standard mode is just to pause after every track so it doesn't continue playing. There are two options involved in order to keep your track playing. The first one you can find in the utility menu. To enter the utility menu, press menu for 2 seconds. Then you'll see the first option in there is play mode. You have to set play mode to continue. It says now single. Press the rotor. Then you can change the value. By rotating to the left you can change it to continue. Press the rotor again and now the menu option is set. Exit the utility menu by pressing menu again. This alone will skip to the next track, but your next track won't start playing. That is because of the auto cue. You can see if the auto cue is enabled over here. It says AQ in the screen. If AQ is red in the screen, then the auto cue is enabled and it cues the track automatically. That means that it doesn't start playing when you load in a song. To disable the auto cue so it keeps playing, so it starts the next track, press here, there is a button over here, it says time mode, and over here auto cue. Press this button for 2 seconds and you will see that AQ will disappear. Now when I press the play button, you'll see it will go to the next track. Make sure that the tracks you want to play are in a playlist or that you have a CD inserted. It won't work, for example, when you searched a song and you think it will continue to the next. That won't work. That's a single song. So a playlist or a CD. The settings, by the way, you can program into the machine itself, but you can also program into Rekordbox, and then when you export songs from Rekordbox to your USB, those settings are copied onto your USB. When you insert the USB in the device, in the CDJ-2000NXS2, then it will ask you if it has to load those settings for you. You can access the utility menu on the CDJ-2000NXS2 by pressing the menu button for 2 seconds. Then a menu will appear. You can go through the different options by using the rotor button, and you can enter a value by pressing the rotor button. So in this case, single, I want to change that to continue, turn the rotor and you can change the value. I can change that to continue and I enter the value by pressing the rotor again. Now the value is set. Personally, I like this to have on single. The play mode determines if your track that you're currently playing is stopping at the end of the track. If it says continue, then it will continue to the next track. The eject load lock, that means that your eject button is locked when you are playing a song, so you can't, for example, eject a disc while you're playing a song. You can set it to lock or unlock. I'd like to have that on unlock. The quantize beat value, what is the value that your quantize has to react to? 1 beat, so it will round up to 1 beat, or will it have a half a beat, a quarter beat, or an eighth of a beat? You can't go any further than 1/8 of a beat. The Hotcue autoload. Does the CDJ has to autoload all the Hotcues when you are loading in a song? When you switch that to off, you need to load the Hotcues yourself by pressing the call button. Hotcue color. you can switch that to on or off. I have it on off. When I enter a new Hotcue, for example, I'm in Hotcue bank number 2, I want to set F with off, then you will see it has the same color for all the Hotcues. I'll delete it, and when I have it on, you will see that every Hotcue has a different color. Then the auto cue level. You can switch that to different values. What if you have the auto cue enabled, so it cues a track automatically, it pauses a track automatically for you when you load in a new song. But at what level does it has to react? When is it silence? Is it silence at minus 78 decibels or 66 or 45, 48, etc, 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 or the memory of a track? Slip flashing. When you use the slip function, does it has to flash all the buttons? When I press the slip function, then you will see it will flash all the LEDs, and when I have it on off, then it doesn't do anything. I like to have it on, so it will warn me that the slip function is enabled. On-air display, that is the red ring that is around your jog wheel. When I switch it to off, then it will go white and it won't react to the positions of your fader, so you don't know which player is currently playing when the on-air display is off. I'd like to have it on because it gives me a visual clue of which player is at this moment playing and which player is playing at the speakers right now. The jog brightness, you can set the brightness of your jog wheel. And now it's on 2, but I can set it to 1 so it's less bright, or I can set it to off so it doesn't illuminate at all. I'd like to have it on level number 2. The jog indicator is the indicator of the jog wheel. When a track is at the end of a track, for example, I'm over here, you will see this part of the display is flashing, but also my jog wheel is flashing. I can switch that to off, and now my jog wheel stays lit. I'd like to have that on so I have a visual clue that my track is at the end of this track. Then next, the disc slot illumination. That is the illumination of your disc slot. So for your CD you can set the level to off or 1 if you want to. So the brightness of the LEDs that are lighting your disc slot. The language, you can change that to another language. I'd like to have it on English. History name, the player creates automatically a list with all the songs that you played. And what is the name of that list? It says history, and you can change that if you want to something else. His, for example. For me, history is fine. His is also okay. Player name. You see that it is grayed out now because I've connected it to Rekordbox. So I can't change the name, the number of the player. When my connection isn't there, I can change that to player 1, 3, 2, whatever. The link status, you can't change that, it's connected or disconnected. The MIDI channel, you can use the CDJ-2000NXS2 as a controller for your DAW, for example, or other software. But at which MIDI channel does your software has to react? You can set that to channel 1, 2, 3 and up until 16. The digital out, does it have to be 16-bit or 24-bit? I'd like to have that on 24-bit, so I have the maximum audio quality. That is the connection at the back of the CDJ-2000NXS2. Auto standby, if you don't do anything with the machine, does it have to go to standby or not? The LCD brightness, I can change the brightness of the display if I want to. I'd like to have it on 5. The touch display calibration, I won't enter that value because my touch screen is just fine. The screensaver, after I don't do anything with the player, does it have to dim the display? Yes or no? In this case I said yes, so it's on. Duplication, I can duplicate the settings from this menu to another player. In this case I can say I want to copy over all the settings from player 1 to all the other players. So if I have 3 other players in my Pro DJ Link Connection system, then it will copy over all my settings to all the other players. But I can copy it over to player 1 only, or player 3 or player 4. I have only connected player 2, so I can say I want to copy over all the settings to player 2. And it says now in the display, your settings were duplicated to player 2. So I have the same settings on both players. And last but not least, the version number. You can't change that. What is the version number of the software, the firmware on your CDJ-2000NXS2? You can exit the utility menu by pressing menu. And this is the backside of the CDJ-2000NXS2. There isn't much to it. First of all, here's the power switch. If you press it, it is on. When you press it again, it's off. Then we have the outputs over here. The first one is the analog output, so right and left, and next to it is the digital out. Then in the middle we have the link, and that is the U2P connection. You can connect via the Pro DJ Link Connection other players and other mixers, so you can copy, for example, the BPM, so the sync function works, or use the link function to use the USB drive from another device. That is the UTP connection over here. Then we have the Kensington lock over here. You can put in a Kensington lock, and that means that no one can take your device with them. And over here is the power supply input, or input. And over here we have the USB output or input. It's just the way how you look at it. This can enable your player, for example, as a MIDI controller for your DAW or for your DJ software, for example. The CDJ-2000NXS2 supports a variety of audio file formats. Files up to 24-bit and 96 kHz. You can put files, for example, on an SD card or on a USB drive, for example, or you can use a CD, and it supports even CD text. The CDJ-2000NXS2 supports audio CDs, but also burning data to a disk, so a CDR, for example, but also supports DVD-R or DVD+R. Bear in mind that not every file format that is supported on a USB thumb drive or your SD card, for example, is supported on burning to a disk. The file formats supported by the CDJ-2000NXS2 are as follows: MP3 files on a maximum of 320 kilobits per second on 48 kHz. AAC files by iTunes, for example, if they are copyright protected, they are not played by the CDJ-2000NXS2. Those have the extension M4A, AAC and MP4 up until 320 kilobits per second on a maximum of 48 kHz. Next, WAV files or wave files, how you like to call them, 16 and 24-bit files on a maximum of 96 kHz. Then AIFF files with the extension AIF or AIFF, 16 and 24-bit files on a maximum of 96 kHz. Then Apple lossless files with the extension M4A or ALAC, ALAC, 16 and 24-bit files up until 96 kHz. And last but not least, FLAC or FLAC with the extension FLAC or FLA, 16 and 24-bit files on also a maximum of 96 kHz. The CDJs support the meta tags or the ID3 tags. for storing an artist name or track name or key of a song, for example. But if you store artwork in there, make sure that it is in the JPEG format and doesn't exceed the limit of 800 by 800 pixels.
And this is what a Pro DJ link connection looks like in a schematic. On top we have the laptop. The laptop is totally optional, by the way, and only necessary if you want to play songs from Rekordbox on your CDJ players. The laptop is connected to the switch. The switch is the device that connects everything together. Then I connect both players to the switch and I connect my mixer to the switch.
The Pro DJ link connection is effectively a network connection, a standard computer network connection between a couple of different devices. You can therefore also use standard network equipment like this switch, for example. My advice is don't buy the cheapest one from a web store, because cheapness and reliability often don't go together. And by the way, you don't put the cheapest tires under your Ferrari, do you? Because it's using a standard network connection, you can use regular standard UTP cables. Cat5 cables, for example, are enough. Let's plug in all the cables in the devices. And now put all the cables in the switch. And plug in the power and we're ready to go. When the Pro DJ link connection is present, then you can copy over the BPM from one player to another. In this case, I want to copy over the BPM from player 2 to player 1. Before I can do that, I have to set player 2 to the master. And I can do that by pressing the master button. Then, if player 1 was first set as master, then the light of master will go off of the first player. The player 2 reads 129 BPM. Player 1 reads 120 BPM. When I want to copy over the 129 BPM from player 2 to player 1, the only thing I have to do is press the sync button. You'll see that now in the display is presented 129 BPM. When I operate the slider of player 2, then it will have effect on the BPM of player 1. If you don't want to have that connection anymore, then you have to press the sync button again. And now when I operate the slider of player 2, it won't react to player 1. But the same thing applies for your mixer. Back in the good old days, we had to tap in our BPM. So on the beat of the song we have to tap, and then it will make a calculation of what is the BPM of a song. You can also use the auto function, but yeah, that works for 4 to the floor beats, but maybe not in a song that has that regular pattern. The Pro DJ link connection can help you with that. For example, my player 1 has a BPM of 123, my player 2 has a BPM of 127. When I put my input selector to player 1, you'll see that it will light up here. Beat FX will light up on channel 1 and it says 123 here in the display, and it says also 123 here in the display. When I put it to channel 2, then you'll see that channel 2 has a different BPM and that the BPM in the display has changed. Now when I set it to master, then it will try to detect the BPM on the master channel. That has nothing to do with the masters on your players, for example. When I play both songs together in a different BPM, then it doesn't know and just chooses one or the other. In this case it chooses player 1, 123 BPM. When I put down the slider of channel 1, it will jump to 127. It may take a while, but here it is. What is also a super handy feature is the on-air display, and with the on-air display your CDJ jog wheel will turn red. For example, I'm putting up fader 2 and you'll see that the jog ring of player 2 will light up red. The same thing for player 1, slider 1, and you'll see it turns red. So you know which player is currently on the air. This works not only with the faders here, but also with the crossfader over here. So when we put up these ones and I slide it to the left, then my left player will have a red ring. When I slide it to the right, my right player will have a red ring. You can also pull tracks of another player. So for example, I have over here player 2, and player 2 has a USB drive in it with songs. And if I want to play the songs from this USB drive, then I can use them on my first player. How do I do that? I click on the link button and then it will load the settings from my USB drive of player 2, if I want to do that. But I can now use it as if the USB drive was over here in player 1. So I can browse it, I can use the playlist, and I can select a song and play it. This trick will only work with USB drive and SD card media, but not the CD. But you can also connect Rekordbox, so your laptop, with your CDJs, so you can play tracks from your CDJs directly out of Rekordbox. If you connect the Pro DJ link connection, then you'll see that in the bottom of the screen of Rekordbox there will appear an icon that says link. And when you click that icon, then you'll see your 2 players over here and your mixer over here. Now you can drag songs from your playlist to player 1, for example, and player 1 starts loading in the song and directly playing in my case. But of course you can also drag a song to player 2. And play it. But you can also preview songs from Rekordbox, so you can hear what is going on, a preview in your headphones that is connected with your mixer. For example, I want to preview my first song in my list, so I will click on that first song. And if your volume of your laptop is down, because it will play over 2 channels, the first channel is the audio channel of your laptop. If you put it down, it won't give a noise, but it will also play via your DJ mixer. You have to enable the cue function for that, and you can even skip in the songs. But there's a second way you can pull tracks out of Rekordbox. If you click on the Rekordbox button over here in the top left corner of your CDJ, then you will see it is connected with my MacBook. Now you can browse through all the lists that I've made and load in a track, for example. And you can browse Rekordbox the same way as you would have done with your USB device, for example. Make sure that your player numbers are correct, because otherwise things might not work the way you would expect. For example, my player 1 here is connected physically to audio channel number 1, so under fader number 1. But it is set to player number 3. So when I use slider number 3, that will operate the red ring. But that is not correct, because it is under fader number 1, but as you see, fader number 1 doesn't respond to the red ring on player number 1. If you want to change that, use the utility on your CDJ, press menu for 2 seconds, go to player number, over here, then I change it to player number 1. If you want to change those settings, make sure that the Pro DJ Link connection is active, but that there are no devices in the machine, so no SD cards and no USB devices, but also that there isn't a connection between Rekordbox and your CDJ. Then the option will be grayed out and it is impossible to change.
Subscribe to my free DJ Tips newsletter. As a thank you, I will throw in a free ebook with information on how to get a foot in the door, equipment and the necessary skills to learn. The link is in the description.